Keanu Reeves is known worldwide as a humble and generous star, but even his biggest fans might not know this heartwarming story. It all started when he noticed something unusual about Maria, the woman who had been working as his maid for years. Maria was kind, hardworking, and always smiling, but Keanu couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She always seemed tired, and her clothes were often the same ones she wore the day before. One evening, after Maria had left for the day, Keanu found a small notebook she had accidentally left behind. Inside were heartbreaking notes about her struggles, living in her car, skipping meals to send money to her family, and trying to keep her situation hidden. Keanu was stunned. How could someone so dedicated and kind be facing so much on her own? He knew he couldn't just stand by. The next day, Keanu invited Maria for a private conversation, but what happened next changed her life forever. Maria could never have imagined what he had planned. What exactly did Keanu do that left Maria in total shock? Stay tuned, because this story is about to take an incredible turn you won't want to miss. Maria arrived at Keanu's house the next morning, a little nervous but unaware of what was about to unfold. Keanu greeted her warmly, just as he always did, but there was something different in his eyes, a mix of concern and determination. He asked her to sit down for a moment. Maria hesitated, worried she might have done something wrong, but Keanu reassured her with his kind tone. He told her he had found her notebook and apologized for reading it, but explained that he couldn't ignore what he had learned. Maria's face flushed with embarrassment as she tried to brush it off, insisting she was fine and didn't want to trouble anyone. Keanu wouldn't hear it. He told her he admired her strength and resilience, but it wasn't right for someone who worked so hard to live in such difficult conditions. Maria's defenses started to break down, and she shared bits of her story. She'd lost her apartment after an unexpected medical bill wiped out her savings. Since then, she'd been sleeping in her car, trying to save enough money to get back on her feet. She had no idea that Keanu had already been working on a plan to change her life forever. As Maria poured her heart out, Keanu listened intently, his expression soft but serious. He could see the toll her struggles had taken, yet he was amazed by her unwavering optimism. Despite everything, Maria refused to let her hardships define her. She spoke about her dreams of finding a stable home and her hope that one day her son, who she hadn't seen in months, could join her once she could provide a safe space for him. Keanu couldn't shake the thought of how someone so selfless, who had spent years quietly supporting others, could end up in such a heartbreaking situation. He thought about the countless ways the world seemed unfair to people like Maria, hardworking, kind, and simply trying to survive. But he also realized he was in a unique position to make a difference. That night, he made a few phone calls, reaching out to trusted friends and local organizations. He wanted to be sure whatever he did would not just offer Maria temporary relief, but give her a real chance at a new beginning. Meanwhile, Maria, unaware of what was happening behind the scenes, continued her day as usual. But something about Keanu's words lingered in her mind. She couldn't help but wonder, was this just another kind gesture, or could it be the start of something life-changing? A few days later, Keanu asked Maria to meet him at a local cafe after work. She was hesitant but agreed, curious about what he wanted to discuss. When she arrived, Keanu was already there, waiting with a warm smile and a cup of coffee for her. They talked for a while about life, her family, and her dreams. Keanu's kindness put Maria at ease, but she couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to this meeting. Finally, Keanu leaned forward and said, "Maria, I've been thinking a lot about what you shared with me. You've given so much to others and worked so hard despite everything you've been through. It's time someone gave something back to you." Maria's eyes widened in confusion, and before she could respond, He handed her a small envelope. Inside was an address and a set of keys. Maria looked up at Keanu, her hands trembling. "What is this?" she whispered. Keanu smiled and said, "I'll explain everything when we get there. Let me show you." As they drove to the location, Maria's mind raced with questions. Was this really happening? What could this all mean? She clutched the keys tightly, feeling her heart pound faster with every passing mile. When they pulled up to the address, Maria couldn't believe her eyes. It was a modest but beautiful apartment building in a quiet neighborhood. Keanu parked the car and turned to her. "Come on, let's go inside," he said, his tone gentle but excited. Maria followed, still clutching the keys as if they might disappear. Her heart was racing, and she barely noticed the details of the building as they climbed the stairs. When Keanu unlocked the door and motioned for her to step inside, Maria froze. The apartment was fully furnished, with a cozy living room, a small kitchen stocked with essentials, and even a bedroom with fresh linens and a framed photo of a sunset on the nightstand. Tears welled up in Maria's eyes as Keanu explained, "This is your new home, Maria. You don't have to worry about living in your car anymore." But just as Maria was beginning to process the overwhelming kindness, there was a knock at the door. Keanu, looking slightly surprised, opened it to reveal a man Maria hadn't seen in years. Her ex-husband, holding their son. Her breath caught in her throat as she stared in shock. How was this possible? And why was he here now? Maria's legs felt weak as she stood frozen in the doorway. Her ex-husband, Carlos, held their son, Mateo, who looked up at her with wide, curious eyes. "Mama?" Mateo said softly, his voice breaking the heavy silence. Maria's heart shattered and mended all at once as she rushed forward, pulling Mateo into her arms. She couldn't hold back the tears as she hugged him tightly, feeling the weight of years of separation melt away in that single moment. Keanu stepped aside, giving them space, but Maria turned to him, her voice trembling. How did this happen?" she asked, glancing between him and Carlos. Carlos cleared his throat, his expression humble. "Keanu reached out to me," he said quietly. "He told me about what you've been going through and how much you've done for our son, even from a distance. I didn't realize how much I had failed you, Maria. I want to do better, for you and for Mateo." Maria was speechless, overwhelmed by emotions she couldn't name. Keanu smiled gently. "I thought the best gift for your new home would be the family you've been missing," he said. "But this is only the beginning." As Maria tried to process everything, Keanu handed her one more envelope. Inside was a letter offering her a stable job with flexible hours, so she could focus on rebuilding her life while spending time with Mateo. Maria looked up at him, tears streaming down her face, and whispered, "Why would you do all this for me?" Keanu shrugged, his signature humility shining through. "Because the world needs more people like you, Maria. And everyone deserves a second chance." Maria hugged Mateo tightly, feeling something she hadn't felt in years. Hope Maria settled into her new home with Mateo by her side. A place that felt like more than just four walls. It was a fresh start. She couldn't stop smiling as she watched her son explore every corner of the apartment, his laughter filling the space with a warmth she hadn't felt in years. The job Keanu had arranged for her gave her the stability she needed to focus on her family and regain her confidence. It wasn't just work, it was a chance to rebuild her life on her terms. Carlos, true to his word, began showing up for Mateo and making amends. He and Maria didn't have all the answers about their future, but they were learning to co-parent with understanding and respect, putting Mateo's happiness first. As for Keanu, he quietly stepped back, watching from afar as Maria flourished. He never sought recognition, only wanting her to have the opportunities she deserved. Maria knew she could never repay his kindness, but she vowed to pay it forward, helping others as he had helped her. Her journey had been full of challenges, but now, with her son's hand in hers and hope in her heart, Maria was ready to embrace her new beginning.